Hi, I'm Pastor Amy with a midweek message. What is God calling you to be? Well, on the Sundays in August, we've been reflecting on this very question in the vocation class that we have between our worship services. You might consider joining us on the next Sundays as we continue to wrestle with this question. Vocation actually means the calling, and even though we use it often almost synonymously with occupation, saying that our vocation and occupation are the same thing, there actually are distinctions, because vocation is actually less about what we do and more about who we are. In the first week of our class on vocation, we reflected on a quote attributed to Frederick Buechner. And it goes something like this. I might not quote it exactly right, but your vocation is the place where your deep gladness meets the world's deep need or deep hunger. Or as one of our participants put it a different way, she's heard that vocation discerning your vocation can be found in what upsets you, what ignites you, and what gets you out of bed in the morning. Of course, many things in this world compete for our attention, there's many things crying out to us, many voices calling to us and pulling us in different directions. And so it can be very hard to listen for the voice of God, the voice of Christ calling us amid all of that. In Luke's gospel this week, we'll hear a story about a woman who for 18 years was crippled by the weight of a burden that is described as some kind of spiritual binding or spiritual torment, to the point that her body is actually stooped over by this. And in the story, she's going about probably her weekly routine, going to the synagogue. It's a routine she's probably kept for even longer than she's been afflicted with this condition. And as she's going to worship that day, Jesus happens to be there in the synagogue, and he sees her, and he calls to her. She listens, and she comes over, and he frees her immediately from all that is binding her and keeping her from living and responding fully to God's promises in her life. So I wonder, as we continue to reflect on that question, and as you reflect on the question in your life, what is God calling you to be? If in the midst of your own routine, you can learn to pay attention to those unexpected places where Jesus might be calling. And, maybe it can help you to reflect on those two quotes that I shared, or those two sort of ways of thinking about vocation, or how to find our vocation, that it can be where your deep gladness meets the world's deep hunger. And so maybe that'll help you in discerning what God is calling you to. Or maybe it's what upsets you, what ignites you, and what gets you out of bed in the morning. That may be where God is calling you to focus your attention and your energy. So my prayer is that together we might continue to reflect as a community on that question. What is God calling us to be? Thanks for joining me this week.